had all of the like nature images that I really loved, and I was like, how can we match this?
Wireframe assets that I would export at the end of the day that Joel could just kind of drag and drop.
But as more development and elements started kind of pouring into it, it just evolved into something that we were like, okay, this is pretty big.
Which was one of the things that I thought was really cool. That was fun because I remember hatching that in my head and I was like, oh, that would be so sick.
Founded in 1999 by Jason Burks, Retrospec Films is Oklahoma's largest turnkey production company of its kind. With a full-time team of over 20 talented individuals, a 12,000 square foot studio to create in, and a resume that spans some of the world's largest brands, if you love learning about filmmaking and storytelling, you've come to the right place. On each episode, we discuss the pursuit of creating things and the problems we solve by digging up projects from the last 20 years, giving you a glimpse behind the scenes where the magic happens. You're listening to Retrospec Films from the archives.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on Retrospect from the Archives, our in-house podcast, where we dig up projects from the last few years, sometimes last month, sometimes last week, and we talk about all the different things that we do to create stuff, which if you know much about film, then you know there is a lot that goes into filmmaking, from writing and crazy ideas through pre-pro and casting to locations and shooting and editing and VFX. It goes on and on forever, and that's what we do here. So it's also why we like to talk about him. Yeah. Joining me today is Jessica Hightower.
Hello.
Client manager and producer.
Hello.
And Caroline, creative strategist, writer, director, and that's the most of it.
Coffee lover.
Friend.
Dance coordinator and friend. And
Nice.
just generally just a good person.
Aww.
Just a good
right
person.
back at you guys.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so we are going to talk about a project, really cool project from AAON. And AAON, if you don't know, is a HVAC manufacturer. They're actually headquartered here in Tulsa, but globally they're one of the most respected brands. They, I would definitely say, see themselves as pioneers. They're always pushing boundaries, and that's, you know, ironically, I didn't even mean to use that word, ironically what this video falls into.
In nature, design emerges from necessity. Every pattern and process flows from the masterful blueprint of this ancient architect. There is a clear purpose in every detail that she sculpts, whether it be survival, growth, or adaptation to this ever-changing world. Nature does not fight the tides, she evolves with them, staying flexible and responsive, striving for efficiencies that create maximum impact. Every detail engineered to support another. The intricacies of a spider web, strong as steel to capture prey, yet elastic as rubber to bend with the wind. The rotation of a storm, displaying nature's ability to harness energy, shape it into a spiral till it becomes self-sufficient. The lightning strike, the snowflake, the path of a river. True innovation from the ultimate innovator. A powerful force who remains mysterious yet teaches us in so many ways. We have a choice. We can resist her lessons, or we can embrace them. We can join her relentless pursuit of better solutions, which is not merely creating something new, but refining, improving, and reimagining the way things are done. We can anticipate the changes, choosing to stay flexible, choosing to create technologies, systems, and ideas that are not only cutting edge, but also sustainable. And in time, nature will test us again. She will dare us to break, but we will not. We will continue to evolve. We will continue to push forward despite obstacles. We will see possibilities where others see limitations. We will view the challenges as vital steps towards breakthrough successes. And we will remain one step ahead. True innovation is not about keeping up. It's about forging the path.
So let's talk about this from the very beginning of, hey, we need something.
So this was one of 14 videos that we put together for the national sales meeting that AAON had this spring. And this video kind of had like a lot of roles. So it was meant to generate hype and inspiration, but also kind of cue up a big announcement that AAON was making at the national sales meeting. They were sharing with the world that they had developed a product that is one of a kind. You know, the industry hadn't seen technology like this before. And so they wanted something that was really epic to kind of cue up that announcement. And so one of the unique asks about it was they wanted it to end in snow. Like they wanted it like the final shot, or there to be a theme of snow throughout it, because the unit that they were announcing was able to operate at like full capacity down to negative 20 degrees. And so they wanted, the video to highlight that. And so we knew we had to end in snow, generate hype, and then the theme of the video was to be about innovation. And so, those were kind of the 3 prompts that triggered this idea. And so I had a brainstorm with, I think it was Adam, Chris, and I. And we were just kind of throwing around crazy ideas. And I think Adam had this idea of like tying the snow piece to the idea that AAON is kind of taking cues from Mother Nature about how to innovate, and that Mother Nature is actually, the master of innovation and evolution and creation, really. And so that AAON, while it's kind of contending with Mother Nature because its machinery has to work in these extreme climates, extreme environments, it's also watching Mother Nature work and being inspired by that and kind of copying its innovative spirit. So that was kind of complex the way I just talked about it, but the video itself is somewhat complex, and it weaves together a couple of different kind of storylines of the Mother Nature aspect, some really cool 3D images of the products, some match action between Mother Nature and AAON footage, and then AAON people themselves.
Yeah.
So that was long-winded, but hopefully that made
good.
sense.
That was good. So some unique things that I think scope how far we take a project is, and I guess we won't necessarily say budget, but maybe budget time. Everything has a budget, whether it be high or low. And Jess, I'd kind of like to get some of your opinions broadly on this, because I know, like you said, we had these 14 deliverables, and it was like, okay, this video has to be amazing. We're casting, we're traveling all over the place, and this video is this, and this video is this, and this video is this. And so talk to me a little bit about where this video laid in that whole scheme of things. Like, was it the most important from a monetary perspective, or was it less, or where was it?
So I think it definitely was super important to AAON because innovation is in their DNA. They say that a lot, and they really wanted this video to, like she said, tee up some big announcement. So we kind of went back through that, and we planned out, okay, this video, another one is going to be super important in this one. But then after innovation kind of started taking form, innovating itself, evolving, it really became one of the biggest pieces that we did for national sales meeting, which was really interesting because it was just supposed to be a hype video. We were gonna just we
make those all the time.
Yeah. We're really good at it. We can just go in, knock it out. But as more development and elements started kind of pouring into it, and we got more footage and more ideas, and it just evolved into something that we were like, okay, this is pretty big, and we love it. Yeah, and the client loved it.
Yeah.
After seeing it, they wanted everything to be to that caliber afterwards. They're like, okay, this is awesome. Now, can everything be like this after? And we're like, yeah, that's what we do. So it was really interesting to see, just the video evolve throughout even the process. I mean, I think we talked about it last year with Derby, and that was even before I came into client management. And then this year we started with, hitting the ground running with it. But I think we developed it and had it in post and everything in 3 months. So it was pretty pretty hefty, but once it was over, oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creative nuance that obviously I want to explore with Chris and Joel here in a second, but still kind of speaking through that viewpoint of like how much time do you have and how much effort can you put into something. And I think one thing that was unique about this video that I heard from the get-go was, from Taylor. I think the voiceover Taylor wrote this one, I believe.
And she was also the voice.
The voice.
The voice
yes.
talent on it. And, and I think that it was like, I just kind of caught wind of it here and there. I was like, okay, it's this poetic vibe. And then there was a lot of talk of like it being very sound design driven, which played well towards that nature parallel that you spoke of. And then it was like, we really want to bring nature into it. But then it's like, do we need to go out and shoot all this? But meanwhile, we're shooting like the main video, the Boundless one. So it's like, okay, maybe we need to look at what we can resource, what kind of footage we can get our hands on, whether it be through stock or other projects that we've filmed outdoors, which we have a lot. And then pulling from our AAON library and additional AAON footage. And I think what was cool about it, and it's something that I realized in this project, most people that know me know like my history as a cinematographer. Like that's where it all came from. I didn't know what I was doing before I had a camera in my hands. Like it was already in my hands, and people were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm gonna record something." I don't know. I'm just I'm gonna video it, right? And so because of that, like we have grown and evolved as very much like we're a production company. Like we're the people that shoot the things, which is awesome. But it's interesting. Like I think this piece was such a prime example of how more focus was put on the writing, more focus was put on the sound design, more focus was put on the music, more focus was put on the editing, more focus was put on the like what were the shots, what was the composition of the shots, all that stuff. So before I bring the other guys on, I'm kind of curious, Caroline, from your perspective, like maybe like touch a little bit on that, because I know that you as a creative strategist doing AAON stuff, you've seen all the different types of projects, right? We're going to get an interview, B-roll. We're going to do this big scripted thing and cast it and shoot all that stuff. Yeah. This was in its own bucket.
Very much so. And yeah, I want to talk about that. So like Jess said, it started out as maybe like we imagined it was going to be a smaller lift than it became. And I think part of that is because I got kind of this crazy like wild hair to make it like more than it was intended to be. And so I spent many hours like combing through all of our archival AAON footage, all of the nature footage on like the stock video accounts that we subscribe to. And I started to kind of craft, okay, what could be like a match action? What visuals could pair together to like make this parallel come alive? Because I knew we had a couple of shoot days to go and capture footage, and we had some ideas of what those visuals could be, but I also knew we have so much AAON footage, and let's use it. Let's use all this stuff we have from the past 5 years of shooting there, and yeah, really just show the whole AAON empire, And so I spent a lot of time doing that, and then also spent a lot of time listening to tracks and listening to music. And I think we decided, Taylor and I we listened to so much music, but we decided that we should actually spend some extra money on music because we found this one track that was just like amazing. And then Taylor had found another track that was a little bit more low key, like probably not enough for a hype video, but we loved it. We wanted to start with it. And then Joel was like, okay, maybe I can blend these together. And he was able to like change the key of the second one to marry them really well. And like once that happened, then I was like, okay, this is gonna work. Like we had the visuals, we had the sound. I was like, this is going to be epic. And then once we already had all that prep done, then we went to go shoot the extra footage that we were going to have. So I had all of the like nature images that I really loved, and I was like, how can we match this? And so we would go find something that looked like a waterfall or looked like a tree or looked like honeycomb.
Yeah, honeycomb.
And then we would shoot that and light it the same way as the stock footage. So that was really a really fun experiment too. And then we shot that on anamorphic lenses as well, which created this really cinematic, cool feel that I think also added to it. So there were just so many elements. And I think at that time, I was just learning a lot too, like just as a creative director is kind of, I think, the role that I had in this, because I didn't write it, I didn't edit it, I didn't shoot it, but I was there for all of it, just kind of making sure that each thing was taken care of, I
Yeah.
think. And I learned how much like the extra mile of intentionality can just push things to that next level. And I think that's what happened with this. And then every single person that we brought on, Jess, our production guys, Taylor, Joel, to do their thing, they were really set up for success, and everyone was just like super engaged and loving working on this. And I think that's why it became, you know, AAON's, I think to date, one of their favorite projects we've done for them. And then to top it all off, Chris's 3D was just awesome. Probably some of the coolest stuff he's created. And that was fun too, to like storyboard out with him and think through how those visuals could pair then with all the other visuals that we'd mapped out. So anyway, it was a puzzle. And I think the reason that it evolved is because we kept kind of wanting to add that next layer of excellence. And then, yeah, it came together and all worked out beautifully.
And you know, it's funny, which I'll talk to the guys a little bit more about it, but there was times in this edit where I think we hated it.
Oh, for sure. That's always the case.
I kind of stayed out of it.
Figuring out, that's always the case.
Yeah.
But and I was like, they've got a vision, but every now and then I chime in on proof, and I just remember a few times where I was like, I don't like this.
Like, I don't get it.
And I would
I'm like, just wait.
I give some
just hold on.
feedback, or I'd be like, what we need, like the storyline to progress.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember that was one of the conversations you and I had when we talked about the animation and how it would keep revealing. And I
Yeah.
think that's an interesting thing that you learn as a storyteller is if you give the entire story away up front, then the rest of the story is not interesting.
Boring, yeah.
Yeah, you have to keep revealing things. And so
Yeah, it's that like fine line between like making it clear enough to where the viewer understands what's going on, but
Right.
they're also not like given the whole enchilada right in one sitting.
yeah.
And teasing little bits of, you know,
Yeah.
the progress, I guess. So
Yeah.
we learned a lot. I feel like this project was like one that I will always remember because I think I just grew a lot as a storyteller and kind of like assistant to everybody else that was doing their thing, just helping them excel, which was really fun. So yeah.
All right, well let's get Joel and Chris in here. Okay, we are back with Joel and Chris. So let's continue this conversation. I want to start with you, Joel, because I feel like you were a part of the entire evolution, and this was a project that just kept getting better. It was like, and I think it went through some hard spaces in the beginning, where I was like, this still seems boring. Like, what do we need to keep adjusting? And I think it's kind of rare that, I don't know, our best work usually is highly intentional. So the idea was already amazing before it went to post. It's rare that something comes into post as like we're not sure what we're doing, and then it finds itself and becomes amazing. But that is what happened with this one. So talk to me a little bit about just the evolution of this editorially.
Yeah, so this was a really interesting project for me because I kind of feel like I touched on all aspects of it. I got to help shoot the B-roll that we did. I got to help Caroline go through old footage. I got to dig through source footage. I got to make the music tracks meet up together. And so it's funny because I feel like from the beginning I had a pretty good vision because me and Caroline watched a few inspiration videos that she was like going for. And I was like, okay, I see what you're going for. I can shoot for that. And so once I had that, and then Taylor had picked a song that I actually knew about that she was like kind of the inspiration for this. And I was like, okay, so from that, I can merge these two things. And I felt like I had a great picture of like what we were going for. Like I could see it in my head. Mm-hmm. And so as things went on, like I could kind of make suggestions and kind of guide it towards that. And it was just a really interesting process of getting there, and I felt really confident about what I wanted the final product to look like when I was done, and I feel like when we did get it done, it was there. So
Talk to me a little bit about the value of sound design, because I do feel like sound design played its way in this piece.
Yeah, it was super important because we're just shooting one B-roll of things happening at AAON, and two, we're pulling stock footage, which comes with no sound design. Conveniently, so you get to like build it with like volcanoes and, you know, what does a hummingbird sound like, or like what does the jungle sound like, or what does a wintry scene sound like. So you gotta, you know, go in and build all that and go through a bunch of sound effects that you don't want just to find the one you do. So it's pretty time consuming, but it really adds a lot of value because audio is super duper important in every video. And so it really beefed it up, I think, to have all that sound design.
I'd be curious too to talk just a little bit about geometry as well, because I feel like a lot of the match actions, I mean, you know, those are things I pick up on pretty quick. A lot of people, they're just subconscious, but they still happen. Yeah. But tell me just a little bit about that. I mean, were you like overlaying and turning things down and lining them up, or how were you doing that?
Yeah, I mean, so we, like Caroline said, we pulled a bunch of that footage that we wanted to match with before we went and shot the match shots. And so I remember specifically like telling like I had the stock footage on my phone, and I was telling Garber, I was like, okay, move the light a little bit. Okay, there. All right, now let's shoot this thing. And it was very intentional the way we shot that. And we had a whole brainstorm meeting just about that, of like, okay, well, what are our match kits going to be? Can we get the robot arm to look like a crane? Like, can we find a shot of a crane online that looks like that? Because, I mean, otherwise we're just going out and... Not that we don't have a lot of cranes here. We could have done that.
Sure.
But,
yeah.
But yeah, it was very intentional, trying to line all that up and make it look like, you know, we shot those animal shots too. Like,
yeah.
We got that too.
Yeah. Well, I'll come back to you, but I want to jump over to Chris for a second. Chris, you know, I think the element you were in charge of, which I'm not sure how early or late you came into this project, but the animation was a key component. And I will say, even specifically for me, because one of the things that, I chime in, even though I wasn't involved in this one, I'll watch stuff and give some behind the scenes feedback. And one of the first things I saw was like, in the first minute of early proofs, you know, we just had placeholders for the animation. And the story felt like it had just already like fully been given away. And I was like, where's the intrigue? Like, where's the mystery? Like something needs to be mysterious to keep attention. And Caroline was like, no, we're going to have this animation. I was like, well, explain it to me. And, you know, it kind of evolved through time, right? Sure. But it's funny because as it all worked out, like it is a really magical component that keeps your attention. But I'd like to kind of hear from your perspective. One, you know, like, did it take you a second to get what it was? Do you like what it became? And how'd you create it?
Yeah, they actually had me join the creative development process like really early on with like the script writing. And like the script writing isn't like a man walks forward. It's like this B-roll happens, and then maybe this random ethereal thing happens, and then this weird thing happens while this V-roll or this voiceover is happening. So it's kind of hard to begin. But like you said, it was an amazing script that we had. So really early on in the process, before we even pitched the idea to AAON, I had this idea that we had this unit that was like every component was laid out on the floor and kind of like comes together in this whirlwind. And there's talks of like storms or like a vortex. And we had some early renders that didn't work necessarily. But yeah, I think that just being earlier in the process is probably better for a 3D artist, because you could always do like, I had like wireframe assets that I would export at the end of the day that Joel could just kind of drag and drop. But to your question, it was kind of, we had to re-edit and refigure some things out. Like to your point, we were kind of like, where's this thing going? It's really slow. It's really slow. It's really slow. And then out of nowhere, everything's just kind of building together and it's like spinning together. It's like, okay, what's going on? So I think I sat down with you and Caroline and we kind of like talked through, okay, this early proof doesn't work. How can we re-edit and go from there? But yeah, my original idea was all the components laid out and they kind of like go up in this vortex and it's like the eye of the storm. But that it eventually became that. But early on, it was a 3D shot of all the components. But when I made it, well, I was going to say when I shot it, but I didn't really shoot anything. It's all on my computer. But when I laid up the camera, it's like, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't track. There's no depth just because of my lighting, because of the white background, because it's supposed to be in a studio. It just didn't work out. And I think Joel had the idea of like, well, why don't I just put a hurricane shot in there? Which is crazy because Garber getting his license to go that high, fly over the storm, get all that shots taken care of.
Yep, he worked hard on that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
A lot of work.
Okay, that's a lie. He didn't do any of that. But finding that shot, I'm like, okay, yes, that works way better in that instance. And then having a different camera angle for my view and all that, I think really worked out.
And I mean, obviously, I know that you take pride in what you do, but I'm curious, is it kind of fun having like the hero element of a video, because all the other elements were incredible and so much work. And they were like the driving emotion, but the driving emotion was to get you to realize this remarkable thing that was being created, which was showcased through animation.
Yeah, and I mean, I had this idea early on, and I was trying to pitch it to Caroline. Like, I think I can do this, and she's like, "Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that?" And I was like, "Can you do that?" I think I can do that. Yes. And I'm like, I have a month.
Let me try.
Yeah, let me do this and see. Let me come up. And that's again, we had to rework a little bit at the end because it kind of didn't work, but eventually it did work with like coming up with a different idea, different angle. But yeah, it is kind of tricky. You're in that early stage. I was like, let me try this thing. If it works, it's great. If not, that's okay. But yeah, having the main star of the video be that, I was like, okay, this is nervous. I remember the first time I saw Joel's edit, I was like, oh, it's one of those edits. I was like, okay, we're not messing around with this. And then we're like, they were talking about where this was going to be played in front of thousands of people and like at this big venue in a big room with all these other elements happening. And I was like, okay, so this is not like, let's just make a quick render and like get it out for like a social post or something. This is like, this is
needs the big lead clean.
Yeah. So that was, absolutely super fun.
We even did some, we talked a little bit about shooting the match cuts for the items, but we even did a handful of like match cuts to 3D.
Yeah.
So there was one shot of the Stratus board, which was like their big, that was like the main focus.
That's
like
right.
That is like some new electronics they're doing to make it be able to do all this stuff. And we had this shot of like water on like a black sand beach, like washing up, and we matched that with like a light movement over the Stratus board, which was one of the things that I thought was really cool. That was that was fun because I remember hatching that in my head, and I was like, oh, that would be so sick.
Yeah, and that's something that developed over the course of messing with the edit and going, okay, what does this need? It's kind of moving with like the ebb and flow of the music as well as like kind of the voiceover, what emotion we want to invoke here. And I remember I was making something, you're like, let me just hop in there for like 5 minutes. I was like, okay, show me what you want to do with the light. Because he had the vision in his head of how he wanted it, and my light wasn't moving like a certain way, or like, I don't know, just the framing of it or something. So luckily you knew how to do a little bit of 3D. So you're like, okay, let me just hop down in there.
You get in there and move those shadows around.
So he kind of like set out the skeleton of it. I was like, okay, let me take it from there, and I kind of finalized the shot. But yeah, I remember that was cool.
Coming to a close, but Joel, I'm curious, since you were the editor on this and had to wrangle so many elements together, how did you feel it turned out?
Well, I thought it turned out great. I had a ton of fun making it, a ton of fun like collaborating with everybody, and I got to be at National Sales Meeting when they aired it on their huge screen with like the sound system in the theater, and I was like, oh, I got goosebumps all over.
Yeah,
it felt really, really good to see that, and to just provide them a product that they were excited about. Like when we sent them the first client proof, like they were over the moon, and just like had a few other like logistical things. Like they kind of axed one of our really cool shots at the end because of the way they ordered their program. But honestly, I love it. It's probably one of my favorite things I've ever worked on.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. Well, you guys both did a great job. It was something I was really excited to see too, because I was like, I didn't have really much to do with it. So I was like, dang, that's really good. So it's awesome. Well, we appreciate you guys joining us for today's podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing a little bit about this innovation video that we made for AAON. If you want to check out any other podcasts, we've got them all here on our website, retrospecfilms.com, or wherever you watch podcasts, whether that be Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So we'll see you on the next episode.